Much for joining us this morning. As I say, Chris Donlan, I'm one of the partner account managers here at Sicon, responsible for looking after today with Kinspeed. My job, going to give you a little bit of a look round with the barcoding and warehousing solution that we have to offer. What you'll see me using, and don't worry, I will project this onto the screen, is I've got a handheld device here, okay? These things that you can buy, you can see mine's got a sort of a fascia plate at the back that can be mounted onto trigger grips. So if it's easier for you guys to sort of wander around scanning stuff as they put it away, pick it, pack it, etc., then they can do that. Two key things that you need to appreciate about this solution. A, the actual handheld devices need to be Android. I know there's a lot of different products out there on the marketplace, but as long as it's an Android device, then you're halfway there, okay? The second thing is your warehousing facility needs to have good Wi-Fi, okay? So that's how the device is going to communicate real time with the Sage system, and as hopefully I'll be able to get that concept across to you as we go through the demo, okay? So here at Sicon, if I just click on the products pane here, if you want to learn more about this solution than I can possibly hope to cover off in like a 45-minute presentation, do feel free to go along to sicon.co.uk. Totally free, public-facing website. You don't need to register for anything. If you want to know more about barcoding, just click on it here, okay? I love this statistic here, by the way. It demonstrates how broad the package is. So we've got probably 200 companies using this solution around the UK. Some have got 2 and 3 barcoding users. That one that's on the screen there, I think they must have about 15 to 20 people scanning products in and out, almost like Amazon. So it's got legs is the good thing about it. If you click on the product videos, you'll find that we've got a couple of interesting case studies, okay, which are interviews by our MD, Richard Youngman, with people who, you know, probably embarking or have embarked, shall I say, on a journey you might be considering. So you might find their insight on that quite handy, okay. The other thing is that you've also got access to the help and user guide. We're very transparent as an organization. We like to tell people everything about what the product can do, but that might help you to get a feel for how it's going to look, how it works, what it can do, some of the feature sets, okay? Not necessarily nighttime reading as a guide, but it just might give you a more qualified insight as to what the product's capable of. Okay, so do feel free to have a look around there. Failing that, of course, then go back to Charles and the team at Kinspeed and ask them for any specifics you might need some help with. And if they need to come back to us here at Sicon, then of course they can. Okay. So let's change the view. So without Sage 200, okay, none of the Sicon products will work at all. That's how tightly glued together our solutions actually are. There's quite a few barcoding solutions out there on the marketplace, but I think it's fair to say that probably we are the only one that is dynamically linked into Sage. So when you see me do things on the handheld, it's literally communicating with Sage there and then, okay, real time. So no click here to synchronize, no end of day updating, okay? So whatever the guys on the handheld are looking at are exactly what the people inside of Sage can see as well, okay? So you're looking at one version of the truth. Let's see what sort of things we can do. So these stock codes you can see on the screen here, I've just narrowed it down to a range of codes. So these are all some of the stock codes that are on my demo system, okay? And if I just change the view here to the handheld device. So this is, as I say, it's an Android device. This brand is called a Seuic, SEUIC, probably about £450, £500 per device. Okay, So not anywhere near the dizzy heights of the Honeywell or Zebra printers, devices. You don't necessarily need that kind of quality. It will work quite well on a much cheaper device. The options that I've got for me logged into this device are quite broad, but you can narrow down the different sort of responsibilities that you want people to, be able to carry out. And I've given myself quite a few options, as you might imagine. But the way which it works is that the people that are using this device, okay, in your business, okay, they are not holders of a Sage license, okay. So that keeps the running costs really quite trim, okay. So these are barcoding users, okay. So they are logging into a device with their name and password, okay, and they can go about doing their tasks, okay. They can then log off that device, put it back into a charging cradle. Somebody else comes along, picks up the device, logs in. They have a similar set of options or maybe different ones, okay, but they are all named users, okay, that can access a device in order to carry out some different operations, okay. Let's have a look at stock inquiry. Okay, so I'm working from home today as usual. The server for me is in Bury St Edmunds, which is where our head office is. Okay, so if I walk up to got a laminated sheet of barcodes here. Look, if I just walk up to one of those and scan it, okay, the device has pulled that information over my home Wi-Fi system straight onto the device. Okay, so now I can see more about this particular item. So I can see what it's called. It's a thermostat unit. Is it traceable? That's the other thing we can do, by the way. We can work hand in hand with Sage with traceable items. So whether they're serially tracked, batch tracked, okay. Everything inside Sage is totally visible to this application. If I swipe left, now it will tell me where this thing is. Okay, so you can see it's held in a number of different locations. So imagine your warehouse with its aisles and shelves and bin locations. Okay, this is what these actually are. Okay, so I can see exactly where the stuff is. If I swipe left again, it'll tell me if I've got any purchase orders waiting to arrive, or maybe more to come on the back of a partly shipped order. Okay, so as a warehouse person, I can get full visibility of what's actually going on, and that would be quite handy, wouldn't it? Because if I got if I walk up to a bin location and there's nothing in it, and I think, oh wow, hang on, but if I look at this will tell me if I've got items waiting to come in. Okay, so at least I have that assurance of knowing something's on its way. Okay, if I walk up to a bin, so I've got a barcode labels here for a bin. Let's just scan this one here, look. Then that will show me what should be in that bin. Okay. Now, whether or not you would organize your stock as badly as this, but I've got a number of different items that are sitting in this location. But what I'm being told, as you can see, in every instance is how many of them I should be able to see. Okay, so again, that's getting that information out of Sage and bringing it straight onto the device. Okay, so that's the immediate things that I can do. You can probably see from some of the menus that I've got the ability to be able to do stock taking. Okay, and a lot of people, I'm sure, at least once a year do that. Some people are getting themselves into a cyclical way of counting stock, so they're doing a handful of locations, maybe once a week, maybe once a month. Okay, I can also just ask somebody to do a bin there and then. Okay, dynamic stock taking. So just walk up to somebody with a device and say, hi Pete, can you go and do bin C34? Okay, walks there, scans it, does the count. Okay, and it relays that information back to Sage, as I say, there and then. It still takes a Sage person, by the way, to actually acknowledge and confirm that count. So the barcoding user is just the facilitator of it, but it will take somebody on the Sage side of the system to actually say, yes, I'll accept that. Okay, so there is a little bit of handover in that regard. What I thought we'd do is, just so you can see how engaging the system will be in real life, okay, is I'm going to put a purchase order on. Okay, I'm going to goods receipt it into stock via the handheld, so you can see the level of interaction that the barcoding users can have. So, and just before I go any further, by the way, this is what the access on the Sage side would look like. So when you buy into a Sicon product, as I say, because we only work with Sage 200, it's going to put this menu option onto your Sage menu. Okay, so you can control things from in here. Okay, but by and large, the actual use and connection with the system is via the handheld. Okay, so let's just shrink that away for a minute. Let's go into purchase orders, standard Sage, purchase order list. And I'm going to put a new order on, and we'll just buy something from one of my suppliers on the screen here. Look, so I'm just going to buy something from BGT, and we'll excuse me, I'm going to expect it for delivery, let's say, I don't know, Friday. Don't worry, I won't keep you on the call that long. We'll jump ahead of that in a moment. And I'm going to buy one of the items that I've got a barcode for, so you can see me scanning it in. Okay, so let's go for one of these thermostat units we were just looking at a minute ago. I'm going to bring it into my preferred location, which is the warehouse. I'm going to buy, I don't know, 10. System tells me what the cost price of that should be. Again, this is all standard Sage. Nothing's going to change here at all. So if your people are already used to this, that's all good. We'll just keep it nice and simple this morning. Just keep that item. So we'll save that away. And what Sage will do for me, of course, it will generate a PO number. Okay, so that's the next PO number in sequence, and that's ordered and on the system. Okay, so if I just refresh this list, you'll see it's number 4022. Okay, with BGT raised today, 1st of October. Now, if we imagine a passage of time elapses here and a van pulls up outside and there's a guy delivering something to me, okay, we can go back to the handheld and just click on here. There we go. So I should now be able to receive purchase orders. Okay. Now, what's popped up on my list here are all the purchase orders that are on my Sage system that I can potentially engage with. Okay. At the top, there's a little search key. Now I could punch in there BGT and it will bring up every purchase order for BGT that I could work with. Okay. Or I could be quite specific. Okay. And say, well, I'm just looking for purchase order 4022. Okay. Which is the one we've just put on. And when I tap onto it, the system then says, okay, well, this should be what you're receiving in that purchase order. Now, there are settings, too many to go through in today's session, but there are settings that help you to configure the barcoding solution so it's more in tune with the way you want to work. Okay. Now, I can then force barcoding users to scan things. Okay. So as long as they scan the first one, okay, they could then use these buttons here to just update the quantity. Okay. Otherwise, how do I know they're scanning the right item? How do I know they're goods receiving the right item? Just to give you an idea of that, I'm going to scan the wrong barcode for this delivery. And I'll go, no, this can't be in that order. Okay, that's not the item you should be receiving. Okay, so if I scan the right item this time, I get a much nicer cheery beep. Okay, so I know I'm scanning the right one. Okay. Now I don't have to receive everything. They might have done a part delivery. Okay, but as long as I'm bringing in some, okay, that's great. I can prevent people from over receipting. So if the supplier's accidentally sent me 11 and I've only ordered 10, what am I going to do on? Am I getting that for free? I might need to go and see a supervisor or something to just get that qualified. What do you want me to do with this? Okay. I'm just going to say we're going to receive all 10. So I don't have to just hit that plus key. You might be bringing thousands of items in. You don't need to do that. Just tell the system how many you've got. At the bottom here, I've got a couple of symbols. I've got a camera symbol, okay, and I've got an action button, okay, and everything in this handheld is configured around that. Everything you'll see is very, very similar on different screens. So your uptake of how to use the handheld should be quite quick because we've designed everything to look the same. Okay, to show you something I can do with this camera, it's going to click on it, and what that will allow me to do as the barcoding user is take a picture of, say, this docket over here, okay, and I can get an X to say, actually, I'll take it again, or B, I'm going to hit the tick button, okay, and the system says, okay, I've grabbed a hold of that, all right, and I can take as many pictures of everything that I need to. I might want to take a picture of a damaged item. So when I took it out the box, it was already broke. So if I take a picture of it, someone can use that when they're getting into a communication with the supplier to say, hey, look, you sent me this. Okay, can you replace it? Let's go to the action button. A couple of options here. Print labels, what does that mean? Well, I can, from the device, if I want to print my own barcode labels and stick them onto the 10 boxes that I've just taken receipt of, great, okay, generate my own. If I confirm receipt, it just means I'm bringing them into the warehouse, but it's coming into my kind of goods in area, okay. I'll let somebody else put them away where they need to go to later, okay. Or I could do a confirm receipt directly to the bin. And if I hit that, the system will tell me where I need to take these 10 boxes to and put them on the shelf. Okay. But obviously, I always say this to people on these demos, if you don't go and take them there, then we'll update Sage to say you've got 10 in C9. And if you don't put them into C9 and someone goes there and it's empty, and then he goes, well, where are they? They're still on the floor. Okay, so I'll just do a confirm receipt. Okay, Sage asks me, not barcoding, Sage asks me for a GRN. This is just a delivery note number. Okay, so just going to make something up there and submit it. Would you like to receive these items? Yes, I would. That is now a fully receipted PO. We get a nice green tick success banner, so I know that's gone through okay. All right. And that I won't see that purchase order now in my list because I've receipted it in full, so it doesn't need to appear. If I go back into Sage just to demonstrate the immediacy by which we're updating the state of events, okay. So if I go back into this purchase order, a couple of things will have happened. If I go to my quantities option, you can see that the goods received quantity has already been updated because I engaged with it with the handheld device. So we can tell Sage that these goods are in. Okay. The other thing I did was I took a picture of a docket, like a goods in note. Okay. If you're armed with a product called Sicon Documents, which is a real nifty, useful little app, if I click on view documents here, look, there's the picture I took with the handheld device. Now this picture is welded to that purchase order. So even when I reconcile an invoice against it and wrap it away into archive, I'll still be able to go back and look at that picture. Okay. And if that picture was that damaged item I took, can you see I've got an email option here? So I could now email the supplier and say, look, we took a picture of this, it's rubbish. Okay. Or I could send that to somebody internally. Okay. So it's really quite a useful little package, this. So worth having a think about. If you need to know more about it, just, as I say, ask Charles and the team at Kinspeed, but it's called Sicon Documents. Okay, and it has these buttons everywhere on your Sage system: sales ledger, purchase ledger, nominal, stock, pop, SOP, everywhere. Okay, so you can connect anything to it. Okay, I could drag and drop an email on that button and I'd have a recognition of the email dialogue I'd had with somebody, an Excel spreadsheet, a Word document, a picture like you just saw me do. Okay, so you can add anything onto those buttons. Okay. Okay, so back onto the handheld device. And if you remember, I brought those thermostat units, okay, and just brought them onto my bench. Okay, as a secondary process, I can now put them away where they need to go. Okay, and we've got an option up here. Look, I'll just circle it with the mouse, called put away. And you'll notice the option underneath it said wave put away. So that means I can assign a task for somebody to say, Fred, can you put away this, 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 this? Okay, and let them go through that task. Or I can do it one at a time. Now, all the items that you can see here, I'm ashamed to say, are all the ones that are sitting on my floor in my imaginary warehouse. But if I go to my CD box, which is the one we brought in, okay, you'll notice it says 20, okay, and you might recall I actually brought in 10. So what it's trying to tell me is, well, you might have brought in 10 from another delivery, okay, so total now sitting in your goods in area is 20, okay. So if I tap onto that, it'll say, okay, well, this is where they can live, okay, B1 project, P1C, where do you want to put them, okay, and how many do you want to put in there, okay. So if I say, okay, I'm going to move 20, all 20, okay, and I'm going to put them into B1. So the graphic says, okay, so you're moving 20 from goods in to B1. Is that right? Action button. Yes, confirm that movement. Done. Okay. So now somebody's walking down that aisle, putting those 20 thermostat units, and you'll notice how straight away the display has updated itself. So I've got no more boxes sat on the floor. They're actually now winging their way to bin B1. Okay. So again, the immediacy of that, if I just show you back in Sage, and then we'll look at what a pick, pack, and dispatch thing looks like as well. So if I go to my stock list and I look at CD box, okay, and I look at the history in Sage, what's happened to that? Okay, can you see how we originally bought in 10 from BGT on purchase order 4022, and then Chris, me, as a barcoding user, Chris moved 20 from my goods in area and slotted them into bin B1. So I've got full traceability of when, who, what, okay? And that's all coming from the barcoding device, okay? So we can update Sage with all that useful information, okay? If anyone's got any questions as I'm going through, by the way, don't feel shy about unmuting and asking me anything, but I'm hoping so far that has made, that's relevant and you can follow what I'm doing. Okay, let's go and look at the flip coin of that process now then, and let's have a look at what handling a sales order would look like. Okay, so I'm going to go to a new order. Again, so far standard Sage. We're going to sell something to, I don't know, Asda. Why not? Okay. And I'm going to promise them delivery of that, let's say Friday again, like we did before. A couple of things we will have added rather elegantly or subtly into the Sage screen. I just want to show you that. So over here on the right, look, I can actually choose a specific barcoding user to pick, pack and dispatch the order I'm about to put on. Okay. If I leave it blank, it means that anybody who grabs a device, taps on to dispatch sales orders, as you'll see, they can process that order. Okay. But if I want to contain it to a certain person, I can choose that. When I pick my items I want to sell, okay, and we're just going to go for a, what would Asda buy? We'd probably buy a toaster, I guess. There you go. I'll sell them a toaster or 2 toasters. Okay, I'm just going to say 2 in here, and I've got the stock available, so Sage automatically allocates it ready to go. Okay, we'll save that. And again, I'll just keep it simple. What you'll see happen when I save this is that this box here, look, called ready to pick, that'll actually be ticked automatically. Okay, and that means that somebody in the warehouse can go and process that sales order. However, if I come back into this sales order and I untick it, okay, they can't see it. It's still on Sage, but they can't pick, pack and dispatch it. Okay, and there might be good reason why you want to hold that back. Okay, could be the customers coming back to me adding more items on later, and I want them to pick it in one go. Okay, just an option while I think about it. But if anybody on the call has their stuff delivered via a courier, there's an option to add courier integration onto this system. Okay, so when you're putting the order on, the customer's requested, I don't know, DPD next day or parcel Saturday or whatever it's called, and you can have as many different courier relationships on here as you want. Okay, then it means that when the guys on the warehouse, when they're pulling the items together and they're putting them into boxes, they can just say, yep, I'm going to communicate with DPD. I've used 3 boxes. I need 3 outward facing carton labels, which then come off on your thermal printer for you to stick on the box. We grab the consignment number from DPD, insert it into the sales order. So now you can track it. Okay. DPD rock up, their van guy gets out. He's got on his manifest 3 boxes from this company. I'm going to scan them, put them onto my van, take them back to the processing center for ongoing delivery. All that happens in real time. Okay, no need to clock onto their system and log all the details in. We take everything from your sales order and push it over for them to be aware of where things need to go. As I say, it's not included in barcoding. It's just an optional item that you can buy into. Okay, let's save this away. And there you go, there's the tick, look. Okay, ignore that pop-up. That's just another option on my demo system, which we're not going to be looking at today. And that's just going to generate me a sales order number this time. Again, standard Sage 5675, and ignore that pop-up as well. Okay, so that's a sales order on the system. It now means that I can engage with dispatching that sales order when I'm ready. Okay, so I'm just going to go back to the handheld device. Okay, and as you'll see, I've got an option on here, look, called dispatch sales orders. Okay, and similar to the purchase order thing, if I want to create a wave pick, okay, then I can put 5, 10, 15, 20 orders into that wave. Okay, one person can then be charged with going around picking all the stock items, not just for one order, but for all 10 or 15 sales orders. Okay, so they make themselves more pick efficient as they go around the warehouse pulling the items off. And the system, by the way, will sort it into the most efficient pick route. So if there's 15 items in an order, instead of jumping from one end of the warehouse to the other, it will actually sort them so that they're only going up and down the aisles in a nice linear manner, picking everything that they need. So let's go to that. Pretty similar to the purchase order, these are all my sales orders that are sitting inside of Sage. Okay, there's lots of things we can bring up onto the screen here, things like pick priority. If you need to pick urgent orders before you pick others, we can filter the selection, so you can just say, look, just show me all the orders for Asda, will you, because I need to gather them all together because they're going on to their lorry. Okay, they're going to pick them up, so I need to get all the Asda orders picked, ready for that collection. So there's all this kind of thing that you can do. And again, if I search, I could search for Asda, I could search for a particular number, which is what I'm going to do here. Okay, so 5675. Now, that's quite intelligent. So it says, well, look, I know you're going after this order for Asda, but did you know we have other orders for Asda already on the system? Would you like me to guide you to pick those as well? Okay. So again, you can have this wave concept created on the fly if you wish. Okay. I won't bother for now. So I get a display as to what's this all about, who's it for, where's it going. I can also introduce other bits of information like a sales area, a person who might be connected to it. Okay, so just to reveal that kind of information to the handheld user. If I swipe left, that tells me what I'm picking. It also tells me where to go to pick it. Okay, again, got those camera symbols, and this, by the way, is like a palette identifier. So if I'm picking items or different orders and putting them onto a palette, okay, then I might need to say which palette number I'm using. Just before I go in and pick that, okay, I just want to show you how the Sage users can be aware as to who's actively engaged with that order. So if I just refresh my sales order list here, look, the one at the top is the one I'm working on. And if I just open that up for a second, can you see at the top it says this order is being picked by Chris? That's really handy. So if for whatever reason you might need to find Chris and you want to know who's picking or find out who's picking that order and you get told it's Chris, that way you can have a much quicker line of communication to say, hang on a minute, they've just said don't pick it, don't send it today. Okay, so I can find out who it is. And by the way, we've got dashboards that would reveal that level of information as well, but I just thought I'd show you on one order. So we can give that information, we can make that connection to Sage, okay, and it just keeps everybody in the information loop, doesn't it? So let's go and pick this toaster, okay? And it's telling me, okay, you need to go to B1 to pick this. Now, inside the Sage record, armed with barcoding, you can actually hold images. If I just tap this little graphic over here to my right, that will now show me what that stock item should look like. So if I've got a shelf with a load of similar looking items on, it might just be handy for me to just get a final reminder as to which item I should be grabbing. Okay, so I can get a little graphical picture come up as well. So I'm picking 2 toasters, and I've chosen this product deliberately because I wanted to show you how you can make sure that the picker, okay, is actually verifying which batch number they're picking as well. So if this is, because this is equipment, I may need to know the serial number or the batch number, okay? And I can also indicate how valid something can be. So it might be manufacturer's warranty date, it might be use by date if it's a perishable item, sell by, use by, okay? All these attributes are information that you hold in Sage, but we can bring them visibly onto the handheld to make sure that the picker makes the best choice. And that can all be sequenced, so they pick the oldest stuff first. Okay. So I'm going to pick 2 from this batch, my 2 toasters. Okay. I'm going to say okay. And that verifies for me here, look, that I've got them. Okay. So what's my next option? action. Okay. Again, the green success banner. So this is all the synonymous language that we're helping people to understand what's going on. Now, for me, on my demo system, I'm not only the picker, but I'm also the person to pack the stuff as well. Okay, but you can devolve those abilities to two different people if you need to. So I'm going to go back to my packing bench area with these toasters, and I'm going to put them into a box. Okay. Again, camera. That came in, by the way, strange enough, that came in COVID, in lockdown, because more and more of us were buying stuff online. Couldn't go to a shop, could we? So we're buying stuff online, and then they were dispatching, couriers were business was going through the ceiling, and they were delivering all this stuff, but occasionally they were a little bit slap-handed, and they'd just like lob it over a bench into the back garden, or fence, shall I say, and it'd get damaged. And then people were then ringing up this supply company saying, "Hey, my stuff's broke," And what they were able to do is take a picture of the thing before they put it in the box, and they could show that to the customers, so then they'd have a claim against the courier company. Okay? That's how that came to be. So I'm now packing 2 toasters. So when I say pack, it says, okay, just verify for me that you are actually putting this batch number into, for these toasters into the box. So I can verify that. Okay. Okay. Action. Okay. Now, do I want to print like a packing list or a delivery note of some kind to put in the box with the goods? Okay. You could, rarely in my experience, but you could also get the barcoding user to print the invoice to go into the box to go out the door. Okay. I tend to see that still as being a finance function. So somebody on Sage would get the invoice on its way, probably email it. Okay. But if you did need to print it, that's an option that you can set up so they can print the invoices from a laser printer or a thermal printer. Okay. Any equipment around them, the device can connect to and see and use. I could put the items back as well to change their mind. So I'm going to dispatch what I've picked. Okay. And here is the link to courier. Okay. So if I do now need to verify that I'm sending it on DPD next day or parcel Saturday or whatever it was, you can leave it to the barcoding users to override the choice, or they can pick the choice. Okay. So there's lots of controls available for you to sort of manage it in that way. I'll say no courier for now because I didn't pick one to begin with. And would you like to dispatch this order? Yes, I would. Okay. So that is now a packed order technically going out the door. Okay. And because I've finished processing that sales order, then that won't be now available for me to engage with it anymore. Okay. So if I partly fulfilled it, you'd still expect me to be able to get back in and finish the process off. Okay. So again, just to show you the impact inside of Sage. Okay. So the last time we were here, it said it was fully allocated and it was ready to be engaged with as far as the dispatch process is concerned. But if I click my refresh list in Sage, now it's been dispatched, now ready for invoicing. Okay, so we've updated the awareness of Sage, which means that somebody in sales on Sage can now produce the invoices for those orders. And as I say, no doubt email them as well. Okay. Just before I show you something along the lines of stock taking, we just show you something that you can engage with. You might need Kinspeed to help you get them set up, but this concept I mentioned earlier about dashboards, okay, I've got an example of one on here. We called it picking targets. Okay, and what this will show me is graphical representation of what's actually been happening in my warehouse. So how many picks has Chris done, Steve done, Andrew, all my handheld users, what's their level of activity been looking like? Okay, how many picks have they done this week? And how many orders have we actually dispatched today? Well, one, because that's the one I've just done with you. Okay, so we might have been doing some other picks, but that is the one item that's gone out the door today. Okay, and how much information those different panels that you see on the screen there, what they show, is it a list view of information? Is it pictures? Is it graphics? Okay, you could set that dashboard up on a screen somewhere and just get it to update itself, refresh itself, say every, I don't know, half an hour, and then you get a constantly moving landscape so you can see exactly what's going on. But as I say, those dashboards are maintainable inside your barcoding application. You can either learn how to generate them yourself, or you can ask the guys at Kinspeed to help you out. Okay. So just conscious of where we are in terms of time, I'm just doing a quick, no, I'm not, I'm going to do a quick stock take, and it will be quick. So I'm going to go to adjustments, manage stock take. Let's get rid of that one. And we're going to create a new list. I'm not going to go bonkers. I'm just going to count a few bins just to give you a feel for how it works. But I think you'll like the way it will. So I'm going to count something in the warehouse. I'm going to count bins. I'm going to personalize the name of this. I'm just going to call it Kinspeed. We'll see why in a second. And then display my bins. Okay. So let's count, I don't know, bin A2 and bin B1. Okay. Now, normally in Sage, you say save and print here. What happens is Sage spools the count sheets, which you then physically print out. Okay. Mount them onto a clipboard on somebody with a pen, or a bunch of people with a pen, and they go out, don't they? And they go around and they count and then write the results. Then they send the paper back, and then somebody in Sage has got to keel that in. Okay, quite painful. That concept becomes a thing of the past. So because I've saved the stock take, it means I can now engage with it on the handheld, and any number of people, by the way, can engage in that stock take process. Okay, so when they tap onto it, that's the reason why I personalize it, so you can give it a name that people recognize. They can see which one they need to be involved with. Okay, so we tap onto here, and there's my bins that I need to count, and they'll be listed in the order that makes the most sense to walk around the warehouse to do it. Okay, so as Chris logged into this device, if I hit bin A2, now bin A2 won't be visible for anybody else. So instead of having a bunch of people herring down the warehouse, all counting, going after counting one bin, you can just leave that, and they can go and do B1 and C3 and D4 and do all the others. Okay. So what happens here, and again, this is setting controlled, but I've restricted the amount of information the user is going to see, and this is what we call a blind count. So it tells them what they need to count, it just doesn't tell them what they should see. Okay, now that's an option, as I say, but I like the idea of blind count, because what that forces the user to do is count the stock. Okay, so when they start entering in the results onto the screen, okay, I'm just being a bit random here, okay, then that's what's going to go back across to Sage. Okay, so I think I've counted 5 of these, 3 of those, whatever. Okay, so I'm going to confirm that. Okay, and then say yes. Okay, so it says, yeah, I've got bin A2. Now your next bin is bin B1. That's the one that's still left to do. Okay, so let's just do that one quickly, because I know this will contain a lot of items. So again, I'm just going to quickly wrap something in. You'll see why I'm not too concerned about whether it's right or not in a second. So I'm just going to say confirm, yes, okay, and that's that stock take done. Now, gosh, if only life was as simple as that. Let me go back onto the stock take screen, okay, and let's now, normally we would enter the values, wouldn't we, from those count sheets, okay, tapping them all in. However, the results, as you can see, are already in. Okay, so that's come from the handheld. So that's what we actually counted. if I compare that to what the expected value should have been, you can see how wildly apart we actually are. Okay, so I could just clear this, couldn't I, and just say, well, that's rubbish, go and do it again. Or if it was that serious, I could accept this, save it, and then we would update the levels of Sage stock, obviously writing off huge volumes of them here, look, okay, or adding them in some cases, okay. But as I say, I just wanted to get that point across that it's the Sage user that has the final say as to whether that's an acceptable result or not. And these little graphics here, we've enhanced the standard Sage function. So if you've got items like my toaster, which, as you remember, are batch controlled, then we can verify the batch numbers on the count. Yes, I can see batch number 567898345645. I can see that, okay? So I can verify that. I can see not only the quantity of the toasters, but which ones, okay? And that's something you can't do in standard Sage. So we've embellished that relationship, which for some of you on the call, that might be important. Okay, I'm going to pause there. Hopefully within the past sort of 40 minutes or so, I've given you some feel as to the tightness and the level of integration that the barcoding solution has with Sage. It is a very popular product. We're selling a lot of it, as I mentioned earlier on. It's mature. It started off life in 2018, so it's now 6 years old. It constantly evolves and develops, as you might imagine, as we go through the months and the years. We have our own ideas. We love ideas to come from people who say, yeah, really good, Chris, but really good if it could do that. Okay, and we then take those ideas on board and see if we can introduce them into the product for the benefit of everybody. Okay, so we don't have personalized version. We don't do bespoke. We just have a package. Okay, but it's one that, as I say, is under a constant process of evolution all the time. As I say, I'm going to pause there. If anyone's got any questions, etc., that they'd like me to try and answer, please fire in. Feel free to unmute and ask any questions you might have. But hopefully that was insightful for you to see.